welcome back to another episode of IndieQuest. If my math is correct, this is episode 39 of IndieQuest, your celebration of the indie and obscure. As always, I'm here with my wonderful co-host. Not as always, actually. I say as always, but it's a rare treat in the last month or two that you've got the whole gang together. So I'm going to say, as a special celebration, I have the whole crew with me today, including Frantic. What's up, buddy?
Oh, I just had a great morning. I spilled my drink all over my desk, but you know what? We're going to talk some indie games. I think that's going to turn everything around.
Yeah, I am sorry. Hopefully none of the podcast recording hardware is impacted, and I apologize for the stickiness in your immediate future.
Just a little bit of caffeine that I'm missing out on, so that's what I'm bummed about, but that's okay.
That's all right. So you're going to get a low energy, kind of like a vibe, chill Frantic
Hello,
today,
everybody.
right?
How's it going? Hey.
Maybe not living up to the Frantic name, but in spirit Frantic. And that meaty laugh, that hearty guffaw you hear, that's my other buddy, Captain Drachma. What's up, Seth?
I am doing well today. And actually, I've thought about it in the past, referring to Josh and caffeine. Everyone at home that listens to this might not understand our time zone difference. So we record at roughly noon Eastern on Sundays. And for Josh, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, which is a massive bummer. So I feel bad for his no caffeine right now.
No, it's cool. I'm just that's my only addiction I have left. I've got every other bad things out of my life, so I'm like, I'm allowed to have caffeine, so it's cool.
Yeah,
that's reasonable. I feel guilty. I just want you to know I'm not throwing it in your face whenever I take a sip out of this coffee mug. It'll make you feel better to know that this is decaf that I'm enjoying. So, no caffeine.
You're a decaf guy? You're like, not all the time, but sometimes?
Well, people that know me know that I'm a big coffee fella. Every stream I have a big, tall espresso drink. And I was like, man, I don't know. Maybe it's not the best thing for my health to constantly be drinking like half a pot to a full pot of coffee every morning and then 1 to 2 tall espresso drinks in the evening. So I've tried to I'm not cutting caffeine out, but I'm dialing it back just a bit. So I've done more decafs in the mornings, minimize it to maybe just the one Americano in the evening. And really it's just, if I'm ever at a point where I do want to fully kick caffeine just to see what it would be like, I don't want the withdrawals to completely just put me in the ground. I'd prefer to just have a headache and power through.
Yeah, like 2,000 milligrams of caffeine a day, That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
That does lead me to a question for you guys, because it's something I struggle with daily. So, Steve, it sounds like you have caffeine whenever and you're okay, but how late do you guys go having caffeine before you're like, am I going to be able to sleep tonight?
Oh, I can drink caffeine 20 minutes before bed.
Really?
Yeah, I'm the same way, which maybe is evidence that both of us are addicted to it in an uncomfortable way. But I can I can slam a cup of coffee, go lay down, and fall asleep within 5 minutes. I mean, I stream and I'm drinking that Americano until 10 at night every night, and then I go to bed a couple hours later. Although I will say, the exception for me is energy drinks. If I have like a Red Bull at like 7 p.m., dude, good luck getting to bed before 2 a.m. I don't know if it's like all the other chemicals that they put in to make it delicious, but energy drinks mess me up in a way that coffee doesn't.
Do you guys feel like you have a restful sleep when you have caffeine near? Because I feel like I would just be bouncing in my dreams. Like I would be up and down, and I don't know. I just don't think I could do it.
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, this is anecdotal, but yesterday I was driving. We went out of town just for the day, and I was driving back, and we were getting back in a little bit late, and we'd been out in the sun and stuff, and so I was a little tired. So I grabbed a full throttle on the way home. I drank that from like 10 to like 11:30 p.m. to just like keep me brisk and fresh. And then we went to bed, about midnight, and I fell asleep fine. I fell asleep great. But this morning, my partner said, hey, do you remember having any dreams last night? And she said it in like a very leading question kind of way. And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, okay, because in the middle of the night, in the dead of a sleep, you started screaming about SpongeBob. And she like imitated it as if I was like frustrated, like I was trying to explain something about SpongeBob and it wasn't coming across. I was like, it's SpongeBob, it's SpongeBob. And I was like, yeah, I don't remember that at all. But maybe I did not have such a restful sleep.
Playing some jank video games in your sleep. That's what it is.
I guess so. Yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, we've got a good episode for everyone today. Hope you enjoy your caffeine chit chat. And we got a whole bunch of games. And I believe our boy Frantic has a little special something for us too.
So I think this is like the third annual. It's not annual, but the third episode of Itchy Trivia with our friend Seth here, which we haven't done one with him yet. So.
Woo!
What Itchy Trivia is mostly just a guessing game, but is also to highlight some more obscure titles on itch.io, which is a small platform for independent games. And what it is 5 questions. I bring a description and 4 multiple choice answers, and you guys have to guess what the game title is based on the description. So I actually have a couple of layers on this one. You guys have each answer, you can do one of 2 things if you want to. You can talk amongst yourselves, whatever you want to do, but you can do half the answers. I'll take 50-50, like, wants to be a millionaire, or I give you a more detailed description of the gameplay.
Oh, so we've got 3 lifelines essentially.
Yeah, so your lifeline is so you say you got A, B, C, and D. I'll give you like the correct answer and then 1 wrong answer, and you guys can just, I would say try not to use them every time, but if you guys want to use them, they're there for you. I have a little bit of extra description for each of the games here. So,
all right, sounds good. I'm ready.
I'm going to attempt to use them 1 time each, and I'm keeping score because I'm pretty competitive. So.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Now I am following the same rules because I like to beat competitive people. So.
I'm like easy going. I'm like, all right, you guys can use them however many times you want.
Do you want me to just tell you the answer, or like what? It's fine.
You all can't see the video for this, but literally, Seth like leaned forward into like a battle, like he's down for the frickin' hut hike.
I'm ready.
Yeah, he's ready. All right. So, welcome to Itchy Trivia. Here is question number 1. The description for the game is: you died. Your unfinished business? The fate of your many cats. That's it. Is it A, Scratching Post Cemetery, B, 6 Cats Under, C, The Fate of 4 Felines, or D, 9 Lives Gone to Waste?
Oh. Too early to use any of my lifelines.
They are all very realistic names for a game about cats and death.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go with C because I feel like some of the other ones were almost too obvious, and that's how I feel like some of these are. So I'm going with C on this one, Josh.
Okay.
I'm gonna go A, Scratching Post Cemetery.
The correct answer is C. No, it's not C. I was messing with you guys. It's B.
Oh! Well, that makes me feel better, but I bet it makes Drachma feel worse.
It does.
No, the reason I was thinking C. Sorry, the reason I was thinking C is like that was the one I thought you guys would catch because it's like a Fast and the Furious pun.
I figure you just look for those. Like you have a special search function.
Search function, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So neither of you got it correct there. And this game is really hard because there's not much to go off of, especially that's literally 2 sentences. So, you could find Scratching Post Cemetery, 6 Cats Under, The Faded 4 Felines. No, I'm just kidding. The 6 Cats Under at teenbeanloop.itch.io. It's a point-and-click puzzle game where you rescue a herd of cats by directing them with your poltergeist powers, and it's kind of like a little 16-bit style. Looks like a cute, like browser-based, like 30-minute to an hour game, but I thought it looked really cute. So
Nice.
There we go.
Well, you know what they say about herding cats. It ain't easy.
That's like what Steve feels like trying to get us to podcast. He's like, come on, guys. All right. Question number 2 is the blank of the blank blank is an indie fantasy RPG with puzzle and action lines inspired by the great classics of the past, such as Final Fantasy, Zelda, and Chrono Trigger. Is it A, The Adventures of the Mysterious Murders, B, The Mystery of the Hidden Castle, C, The Legend of the Lost Dragon, or D, The Discovery of the Unspeakable Truths?
Every single one of those is so generic. I literally have forgotten what B, C, and D are already. Like,
Yeah, was Legends of the Hidden Temple in there somewhere?
yeah.
I know, it sounds like that, doesn't it? The Adventures of the Mysterious Murders, The Mystery of the Hidden Castle, The Legend of the Lost Dragon, The Discovery of the Unspeakable Truths.
All right, so if we want to use a lifeline, the other person has to guess first, obviously. Or we can't both use lifelines at the same time.
Oh, okay. So you want to use a lifeline?
I might. This one's a pretty toughie. This is a little tough one.
All right, I'm going to shoot my shot here and say C. I'll guess C, and then we'll let Drachma play with his little toys.
Okay, you got C, The Legend of the Lost Dragon is Blink's answer here.
I'll take
What's yours?
I'll take a 50-50.
That's a good call. Oh, God.
50-50. All right, we got either A, The Adventures of the Mysterious Murders, or C, The Legends of the Lost Dragon is your 50-50 here. One of these is the correct answer.
I was really hoping that you would not include Blink's answer if it was wrong. But it is a good idea. It is a good idea to include it.
Now, is it bait? Is it bait
I
for you to
know,
fall
it's
into it?
like-
Or did I get it right and you have to come tucked with your tail between your legs guessing the same answer as me?
I think I almost... You got to play the odds a little bit, which is 50-50 overall anyway. But
Yeah.
I'm going to go with C because it just seems more RPG-y of a title than A.
Ding, ding, ding. You guys are both correct. It is C, The Legend of the Lost Dragon. So basically, it is like a turn-based RPG, has a 16-bit style. It has a unique system called the Fury and Calm upgrade system. It seems pretty interesting, and it looks like mostly made just to try out this different type of RPG system that takes some classic elements and makes them a little more modernized. So I thought it looked pretty fascinating, and maybe somebody might want to check that out. And it's free on Steam. Or not Steam, and itch, and Steam actually I think as well. And it's zefiro.itch.io, and the Zefiro is ZEF1R0.itch.io. Speaking some leet speak there. And yeah.
Edgy.
Yeah. All right. So 2 questions in. Tied up still, right?
Yep, tied up.
1-1.
Number 3. When Blank, the chipmunk, stumbles into a portal in the forest, he's transported to a magical world. Here he finds giant walnuts galore, but getting them home won't be easy. Solve puzzles and challenge across a variety of unique levels. Gather a horde of giant walnuts and help Blank get back to the forest.
So I know you said blank, but I was listening and thought you said blink at first. So now I'm imagining this headbanded chipmunk running around the forest. But
It sounds like a game I would play, so I'm down.
So I'll give you a little hint. I blanked that out because it could possibly mention one of the words from the title. So, all right. So A, Chico in the Magic Orchards. B, Classic 8-Bit Chipmunk Challenge. C, Chipmunk Mystery Panic. Or D, Tree Escapades.
Can I get those run down one more time?
Sure. We got A, Chico and the Magic Orchards. B, Classic 8-Bit Chipmunk Challenge. C, Chipmunk Panic. Or D, Tree Escapades.
it might have been bait, that you blanked the name out, but I'm going A because it has a name in it.
I know.
That's my only
I have the
reason.
same logic in my head too, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna go A. We're gonna have to disagree at some point,
Yeah.
but A seems the logical choice.
And you guys, sorry.
Oh,
No, you're correct. It's A.
all right,
All right, yeah.
2-2.
I mean, I thought that would get you guys. Dang. All right, it's all right. All right. Also, you can find the game. It looks really fun. It was actually featured on the itch homepage. You can find it nickavv.itch.io, and it has like a Game Boy, like original Game Boy style. And it actually has the original Game Boy Color palette, but you also can turn on like a Game Boy Color mode, which makes it like each area a different color, you know, like with
nice.
the blues and
that.
reds and stuff. Yeah, it's
That's
cool.
sweet.
So, where are we at? You guys are tied still, right?
Yeah, it's 2-2 after 3 questions.
Yeah,
All
but if the number of remaining lifelines is a tiebreaker, I'm ahead.
Wow.
All right. Number 4. You are Ida, a young girl lost in a dying world. The elements of the world have been unleashed. Ancient demons stalk the lands. Collect a piece of quintessence. Ascend to a divine power. Defeat the elder god, harvesting the souls of the world.
Oh,
Edgy.
Sounds pretty cool.
yeah.
Is it A, foghorn, B, damp lamp, C, demon talk, or D, loplight?
First question that I have about this question. How many more questions do we have? And I already forget what my other lifeline is.
We're just doing 5 today.
Oh, okay.
And the other lifeline is I give a detailed description of like what the gameplay looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going D on this one. Some of those names were ridiculous, and if it's that, then okay. But D seems closely aligned to what you were describing the game as.
Same. It's also D seems like the one that you would have the hardest time coming up with on your own. But I'm gonna, since he's already guessed D, I'm gonna use my 50-50 just to narrow this down.
Just to be sure.
Yeah.
All right. It's either A, foghorn, or D, loplight.
Oh,
Gotta be Foghorn, Blink. You gotta go after Foghorn.
foghorn. What the hell's a loplight? No shot that Frantic would just come up with that in his
Loplight.
mind.
What is that?
It's D, loplight. Final answer.
Yeah, it is. I should have thought of some like weird names like that too. I went too generic. I think I went too generic with the other ones on this one. All right, this just shows you I'm not very good at making questions. That's all this is. All right. Actually looks pretty cool. The game itself is kind of like a hack and slash, like beat 'em up style game. Like it has like midnight hues, I would say, like dark blues, and it's pixel art.
Nice.
Short and replayable short story. The description says high intensity combat, dodge, slash, and shoot your way to victory. And it's a story rich experience. Explore the morality behind ambition and loneliness. This actually looks pretty cool. This is found at scumhead, all one word, .itch.io. You guys can check out that game, Loplight. All right, last question. I didn't really make a tiebreaker. Maybe I should have, because since there's 2 people here, I didn't even think about that.
The tiebreaker is that Steve and I cannot answer the same thing on this one.
Oh, that's our rule. Okay. All right.
Blank is a unique shmup/platformer hybrid in which you must construct the stage before platforming and battling on it. Stave off your nightmares by slaying monsters, then survive on whatever ground you can build in time. Is it A, Nightmare Boy, B, Sleep Paralysis, C, Somno Kid, or D, Good Apollo, I'm Burning Star 4?
I'm going to use both of our lifelines for the longer description here.
Why not?
All right, it was made in 72 hours for Ludum Dare 50. and the theme was Delay the Inevitable. It's 25 levels with a Nightmare Time aesthetic. Basically, it has a running clock, and you're trying to build platforms to get to the end, and you have limited resources to do so, and that's basically the premise of the game. So you're building platforms, and you're platforming at the same time.
Okay. And then run through those names one more time.
It's A, Nightmare Boy, B, Sleep Paralysis, B, Somno Kid, or D, Good Apollo, I'm Burning Star 4.
I'll let you answer first, Steve. I'll be a gentleman.
We're doing 50-50 also, right? Is that what we said?
We're out of 50-50s.
No, we're out of 50-50s.
That's true.
I'll guess C.
I knew you were going to guess C, Steve. All right.
Uh-huh.
That leaves me with, I'm definitely going to have to guess. It's generic, but I could see it. They made it quickly, so I'll guess A.
That was my second guess. Yeah. The fourth guess is no one's guess. It's a Coheed album. So.
yeah, it's a Cody and Kimberly album. Okay. It is, drum roll. Okay. C, Somno Kid.
Knew it.
What up? Got itchy trivia. Get down, Seth. Get back.
So thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of Itchy Trivia. The winner today is Steve, also known as Blinkoom. Go follow him on Twitch because he's the superior gamer. Okay.
I appreciate that you're gracious in defeat, even though, Seth, I know, if you had gone first, you would have guessed C as well.
I would have
You
guessed
made
C.
the rule that brought about your own undoing.
It gave me an opportunity to practice my Smash Bros. Clap, though. If anybody plays Smash Bros, you just when you lose, your character just stands in the background, just slow clap for the people who win. It doesn't mean I take it laying down. That's for sure. I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah, it's just Luigi doing like a sarcastic clap, rolling his eyes the whole time. I know, Sora won again. You know.
Awesome. Good round of itchy trivia. I have to say, always a good time going toe to toe, blow for blow with my boy Drachma here. And Frantic, good job highlighting a couple of cool games.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I didn't say where you could find that last game. I guess I should do that. But next time I will try my best to make it harder. I feel like I make it too easy. Maybe I should try to make it harder. Team-bugulon.itch.io is where you can find that last game. And there's a hyphen between team and it's dash bugulon.itch.io. Check that out. It is Somno Kid. Cool. Awesome. But yeah, I think that really I should just try to make it like super hard, I guess, next time. Because I feel like I gave you guys some gimmies on this one. So
Nah, it's good. It was good.
Yeah. Honestly, some of the other ones I've listened to you guys do, I could not have guessed them. This one was... There were some that seemed like, okay, that one seems like it makes more sense. But I remember the last couple that you did with Steve, and I couldn't have guessed. Like, they were very generic names all around, so it would have been tough. So
I'm pretty sure going back and remembering those, I didn't do that good. Either, so.
No.
I think you did like 3 out of 5 on both of them.
Oh,
pretty sure.
All
So
right,
yeah, you
I'll
did
take
all
that.
right. Yeah, passing grade for sure.
Yeah. All right, that's a D.
Yeah.
D's get degrees.
So true.
I mean, the good part about it is we're just like, you never heard of this game, but maybe somebody will look it up and try it out. That's kind of the thought process there. So
for sure, check them all out. But what do you say? Speaking of games, people should check out. What do you say we hop into some indie picks? How does that sound? Agreeable?
it sounds great to me.
Yep.
And tell you what, I'll even be generous. I'll start us off today. Off. I'm bringing a game called, and I should have looked up the exact pronunciation, but I'm pretty sure it's Fee. It might be Fey, but it's just the letters F-E. Have either of you seen, heard of, played, speedrun this game, anything?
I watched this streamer that I watch from time to time play it a couple weeks ago. I think his name was like Link, or I don't remember, something like that. So
He sounds all right.
Yeah.
He sounds like a decent guy.
yeah.
I'm a fan. But yes, so this is a game that I have been meaning to get around to for a long time, and I finally have. So some of your like top line details of it. One, again, it's pronounced Fee or Fey. Came out in 2018. It's by Zoink Games. which is a studio name I don't recognize, but I recognized a lot of the games that they did previously. So they did Core Gang on Wii, which some people might recognize. And then in more recent years, they've done Stick It to the Man, Zombie Vikings, and then probably the ones that like IndieQuest listeners would be most familiar with. They did Ghost Giant on VR, and they did Lost in Random. So a studio that seems to just kind of consistently be cranking out some cool indie games. And this was originally released in 2018. It's part of the EA Originals, like, indie label. So when EA decided that they wanted to try to help publish some independent studios. So it's in that kind of grayish area of, like, it has a major publisher, but it was under a publishing arm specifically designed to highlight indies. So other stuff that was under EA Originals was, like, Unravel, Lost in Random is one of those. It Takes Two, I think, is one of those. So it's existing in that space. But the game itself it's not a complicated game, but it's kind of hard to pin down the exact genre for. It's definitely taking a lot of inspiration from what I call cinematic platformers, so like your Journeys of the world and things like that. But it has some more like literal, tangible 3D platformer elements, and then a little gated exploration in there too, a little bit returning to previous areas to find hidden unlockables and things like that. Anyone that sees this game, probably its most striking feature is its visuals. Like, it's very colorful, it's very bright, kind of has like a light bloom effect going on almost constantly. A lot of like atmospheric volume of different colors and things depending on the different area that you're in. And it's just a very kind of very sweet, very concise, like 5 to 6 hour experience. So the general loop of the game is you start out, you play as this little character. I don't know, they might be named Fee. The whole game has no dialogue, so there's not much like in the way of tangible story. You play as this little character, and you go exploring into these different areas, and these robot-looking creatures have started like attacking the local wildlife and like imprisoning them in these weird sort of like energy prisons and stuff. And the only buttons you have are you can jump and you can sing. So you jump with, like, I played on PlayStation, jump with X, sing with R2. And when you meet different creatures of the forest, you can like stop and sing with them to like make friends with them, and then they will help you to do different puzzle platformy things. So like an early example is there's these orange blooming flowers that are wilted, and you meet like a deer, and you do a little song, you make a deer friend, and then the deer will help you like revitalize those flowers, which turned out to have like gusts of wind that you can then use for platforming and moving around, stuff like that. And the general loop ends up being you go through an area working with the local wildlife. You get to the end, you'll usually meet kind of like the big kahuna of that area, like a really large, like a huge buck or whatever it might be. And they will then teach you the language of that animal, so that rather than needing to rely on the other animals in that area of the forest, you instead can now activate all those puzzles yourself because you know the language. So then moving forward, you now can sing the deer song or speak the deer language, and you can activate all those orange flowers that you find for the rest of the game. That's where the gated exploration thing comes in, is because the first time you go through, you probably don't have the right language to unlock certain areas, find certain collectibles, things like that. And then later on, you will have basically the entire toolkit at your disposal.
My favorite animal helper, you said deer, but you might be getting to this. There's obviously some stealthy gameplay, right? You got to hide sometimes. Yep. And you were hiding through and like maneuvering around these enemies, and then you got this like stag or buck or something to help you, and he just mowed them all down. It was sweet.
Yes, he comes in and he takes care of business. Absolutely. And that's a good transition. There's no combat in this game at all. All you can do is, if there are those robot enemies around, if they see you, they'll imprison you. And so there's tall grass that when you're hiding in the tall grass, they can't see you or spot you. And like, they really can't see you or spot you, to the point where they can see you, and you can take one step to the right into a piece of tall grass, and then most of the time they'll walk up to the tall grass, not know that you're there, and walk away. Like, it's really black and white.
And that's so different from most stealth games, right? Which I think it's kind of cool because it's like you just become invisible and they forget completely about you. But most stealth games, that doesn't happen. But I still felt like that was a good... Like, a lot of games don't do that, where you can just like, all I need to do, I'm so close, he's about to get me, but I can get to that bush and then you're good, right? That's an interesting gameplay mechanic.
It just makes me think of the guards in Metal Gear, and like you explode like 3 people and they're dead, and you move the bodies and you hide for a minute, and they're like, I guess it was my imagination. But more instantaneous, you know.
Yep.
Exactly, yeah. So I mentioned that it's kind of 3D platformery. It's actually... They do the 3D platforming is sort of how you unlock your movement mechanics, which is kind of interesting. So there's not like strict times where you have to unlock certain abilities. Instead, hidden throughout all the world, there's these little purple-pink crystals, and they're usually tucked out of the way. You have to do like an optional room, optional platforming section, or you have to have like, so you really be on your observation game to notice like this little jut of rock that you can crawl under, things like that. And when you find enough crystals, it will give you the ability, or it lets you unlock the next ability. So then you'll bring those crystals back to kind of the hub area that all the other worlds spoke out from, and you'll hand them into this like huge tree god, and he'll give you an ability. And so that means that depending on how much exploration you do, how much backtracking you do, how diligent you are in hunting those things out, you'll get the different movement abilities at different times in the game. So most of them aren't even strictly required in order to like navigate the world and to be successful, but some of them definitely are. So they put enough in your way and like in pretty obvious spots where you're going to get the first couple of abilities, which are the really important ones early on, is actually pretty cool. For a game that's all about exploring the forest and meeting creatures and stuff, the very first ability that you unlock is the ability to climb up to the top of any tree, which is something I've never seen in another game before, and was like, it made for interesting platforming, because suddenly now, when I got it, you're looking at all these places that you've been, and you're like, I'm now realizing that these trees are kind of like naturally building a path up to that like top of that mountain area and things like that I wasn't expecting. And then you unlock some other abilities that are like more strictly movement based. I will give a warning now for all my gated exploration fans, for my platformer fans, you do not get a double jump in this game. You never double jump. You're just stuck with the one jump with 2 anchors tied to your ankles the entire time. It's a bummer. It's a bummer.
Does the jumping at least feel good? Like, I mean, you say there's no double jump, but does it like generally feel good to play? Like, you're the platform expert,
I mean, if I'm going to get into the things that I think this game could have improved on, the jumping is not my favorite. So you end up being, you're pretty low to the ground, and this is a very vertical game, and you really don't have a lot of height. Like you can't jump very high at all. And so there was a lot of times where I was like jumping into ledges and I'm like barely hopping at all and not really able to get up them because they wanted me to go around and find another way. It felt like me jumping, where it's like, I can't jump like I can jump like up a curb, and that's what this little creature can jump up as well, is up a curb.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And so, I mean, that is actually one of the bigger downsides, and something that you'll have to kind of know going in is this is a very vertical game. It's focused a lot on platforming height, but if you fall down, you fall to the bottom of those areas, and you're replatforming the entire way up. And there were a couple times where I was, like 5 to 10 minutes up in like a spiraling set of puzzles and jumps, and then I missed time one, or the tree climbing thing was occasionally kind of wonky, and rather than climb all the way to the top, halfway through he would launch off to the side, and then you just glide all the way down, and you look back up where you were, and you're like, oh, yeah, guess I'm going back up there again, huh? I don't really have a choice.
I think that they could certain games do that well, where you have to do that platforming thing and you have to platform for a really long time, but they'll implement a checkpoint or something in there, so you're not like, when you reach that checkpoint, you're like, okay, good, I don't have to do that all over again. I've done it enough times, so that's kind of frustrating when that isn't involved and you know how much you have to do to get back to where you were.
Yeah, exactly. And they never implemented like sometimes in a game when you get up to a certain height, it will make everything below that like a death plane or something so that you don't fall all the way down. It stops you and resets you. Yeah. No, you fall all the way down. Like it's just one big connected world. So you're falling all the way back down to where you started. So you gotta, I will say, it's definitely a measure twice, cut once type of game in terms of the platforming. Really make sure that you're lined up, that your camera's in the right position. Don't rush it, because otherwise it's gonna be kind of frustrating. There were a couple times where I was like, "You SOBs, I swear to God."
Speaking of falling through things in like gated exploration games, I remember my first gated exploration game and falling in a pit and just falling to a new section of the level, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't die. That's awesome. But then you learn later that when that keeps happening over and over and over again, it's like, man, I wish I could just die already so I could start back where I was rather than have to travel all the way back through the level again. So yeah, that is a frustrating thing that was sort of innovative in the beginning. Like, oh, you can't really die from falling, which is so cool. Like I was dying from falling in every game I ever played. And then it gets to the point where it's annoying that you have to constantly like add 10 minutes onto your game every time it happens.
Yeah. It's like, can I just like hold the X button down and just give up and then start over, please?
Yep.
Yeah, and they don't. I didn't find a lot of situations like that. Usually, honestly, even though it is gated exploration the individual areas that kind of spoke off from that central hub tend to be pretty linear. You're usually kind of working your way from one end to the other. Then you're meeting that elder thing, and then you're either going back, or in most cases, you're like opening up a new shortcut that just goes back to the main hub area. And so you really only end up going back to those individual areas later on in the game if you want to hunt down some of the different collectibles, either to unlock more abilities or there's some like story collectibles that are that like give you a little bit of insight into the robots and what they're doing. Although, if I'm being honest, the story for me was kind of hard to follow. I don't feel like I have a really good grasp on it. There's probably people a lot smarter than me. They're like, wow, that was so obvious. But it was, I got the general idea, and like I feel like I understand some of the themes, but it was not as clear to me as I was expecting it to be by the end, especially compared to some of its peers. But yeah, fun game. Good music too. They do the thing where I feel like this is pretty common in a game like this. It's got nice like melodic kind of melancholic strings, a lot of like slow repeats of like a central melody that they're using in different ways. They'll bring it in like a more chipper upbeat way in some of the specific areas, and then during like punctuating moments of the story, they'll bring it into a lot more somber version of that same melody. So all in all, I had my fun with it. It was pretty good. I mean, having seen the stream, just like gut check, what did you think when you saw?
I thought it was beautiful. Like that, I think that's kind of the point, right? It has a visual style that draws you in. Like if I had known nothing about the game other than it was a platformer and I saw the art design and just like the graphical style, I'd be in, because it's just really striking and not something you see all the time. So it's a great looking game. In terms of gameplay, I am not one that loves two things: not being able to attack the things that are attacking you. Like that kind of frustrates me. You know what I mean? I'm not a big hide from everything guy when it comes to gaming. And then also, I kind of hate that there's no life bar. I don't really like platformers where you don't have a life bar, which basically means like as soon as the thing happens that's not supposed to happen, you're done, right? And you don't get any. Yep. I've heard life bars explained like it's basically a mistake bar, right?
Yep.
When we boil it down, you have this many mistakes, and in a game like this, you have one, right? And then you have to restart, and that's kind of, I guess, frustrating to my gameplay style specifically.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I understand that for sure.
Yeah, it's like in Crash Bandicoot where you got the masks. You got 3 masks, up to 3, and then like you get hit and one of the masks goes away. That type of thing. This doesn't have any of that. Nope. So, yeah, I remember this at an actual EA Play or something like that conference. So I was like, you guys probably saw me looking down. I was looking at some gameplay of it just to kind of familiarize myself with the look of it. And yeah, it's like I love games that choose an art style and aesthetic and stick with it, and this one definitely seems like it. I don't mind a game that is a little more obtuse with the story or like doesn't really explain itself or the themes that well. It's kind of like you just live in the moment and enjoy the gameplay. So it sounds like that's kind of what this is going for, and it might have some themes, but it's just so like obscure that it's kind of hard to like understand exactly what everything's happening or going on in the game.
Yeah, I mean, big picture you'll definitely understand, especially when you get through the ending, like some of the big reveals.
Right.
It actually almost has the opposite problem, where the third type of collectible that I didn't mention. So there's the ones where you can see a little bit of like what the robots experience. There's the ones that just unlock abilities, but the last one are these hieroglyphs, pictographs that are on the wall, and you'll find them in different areas, and you'll do a little chirp, and it'll like show you one single picture, and those pictures are kind of like telling you the entire history of this world and the robots and everything. But there's like 100 some odd pictures hidden throughout the world, and you tend to find them in batches of like 2 or 3 every 10-15 minutes or so. So like keeping them all in your head to like put together some sort of like linear understanding of what went on, it was just too much for me to keep track of, especially spreading it across multiple days, multiple playthroughs. And it's not the type of game where like we need to know the Zelda timeline of Fee. We need to know the exact order of events, but they did put all that information in there presumably for a reason, and I'm just not smart enough to keep it all in my head. I wouldn't have needed to take notes and stuff. So, yeah, there is as much story as you want to find. If you're a dig deep historian type of person and want to really know the lore, it's there for you. You probably have to spend a little longer playing and revisiting some areas, but you can definitely find, especially because some of them, some of these you'll find in an area that you couldn't access the first time you were in that zone because you didn't have the right abilities. And so, are these pictographs showing me just the story of this area? Is it the larger story overall? Like logically, should these ones that I found later be later in the timeline, or do I need to retroactively plug them in earlier? It's wild, man. It's crazy. So it's so much thinking.
I did have one question regarding, before you get to what I imagine you're about to get to wrapping up here, but I always like to know how long a game or any game that we bring takes. So how long did it take you to beat this game?
I'd say for kind of a straight playthrough, when I finished the game, I only had about half the abilities because again they're optional. Took me about, I'd say 6 hours or so, 5 to 6 hours. Now I am still slowly chipping away at mopping up the last few collectibles because I've got a sickness. They show me a collectible and I gotta go get it. So that's gonna add probably another hour, maybe 2 on the game. Thankfully, this is kind of a spoiler for the post game cleanup for Fee from 2018. But you do eventually get an ability that lets you see where in the world the collectibles you haven't found are, and so it's not too onerous to find them all. You don't need to really meticulous look through each area. You can kind of go to an area, it's telling me it's over somewhere in that direction, and I just have to go poke around in that particular area, which I think is smart. So not too long, but fun.
I'm bringing a game later on in this episode where there are some collectibles where they don't tell you where they are, and there are a lot of them. So that's usually when I resort to using a guide or something. But I imagine you're not the guide type of guy. You're going to go try to find everything yourself before you resort to something like that.
Usually I'll try to find them all myself, and then I will use a guide for the last few that I just could not find. Yeah. I always have immense respect for people that write guides before there's a guide out for the game, because it's like if I'm stuck and can't find a collectible, it's usually in like a spot that I don't know that my brain would ever have found.
Right. Yep.
So being able to find them all, you're skilled people and you deserve to be paid more, guide writers. I love you. I love you all.
Exactly.
But yeah, so it brings us down to, where's Fee go on the old quest log? Easy side quest, cozy game, fun to poke at. It has its frustrating moments. I think it could have used a little more consideration to some of the risk rewards in terms of the platforming and stuff. But all in all, you're not going to be upset if you like this type of like colorful cinematic platformer and you like doing a little collectible hunting from time to time. It's very very cozy, very fun. So I would recommend it as a side quest for fans of the genre.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, just watching it, like I said earlier, the artistic style is something you don't see in very many games. So I feel like just from that and kind of the sound design and music, it's worth experiencing.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely worth checking out. I will say, there's a lot to criticize about EA. This is not the podcast for it, but they do tend to have a decent eye in terms of the EA originals and these indie studios that they help get funding behind to publish their games. They tend to pick winners, so you're not going to go wrong checking this one out.
So that was Faye. Check it's on everything, right? All modern platforms. So check that out.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Your PCs, your PS4s, your Xboxes. I think Switch too, probably. I should double check that, but it's everywhere. It's around. You'll find it.
I know. I just remember somebody sending us a message like, "Hey guys, can you like say the name of the title at the end so I remember?" I'm like, okay, I'm trying to put that in my head to do that each time.
Top Spot.
Top Spot. That's what it was. That was Top Spot.
And thank you for doing that because it did give me time to confirm. Yes, it is. It is on Switch as well. So Xbox One and the modern PlayStation 4 and 5, Switch, and Windows.
Cool.
Awesome.
Do you want to save yours for less, Seth, since you've been building it up, like hyping it up, or do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll wait.
I'll wait.
You'll wait. Okay,
we'll make a Josh sandwich on this episode for sure.
Oh, hot. Anyway, I brought a game. There's a sequel coming out pretty soon, so I decided to pop on my Switch and play through it again. It's called Oxenfree. Have you guys heard of this game, or have you played it?
Heard of, but never played it. It's been one of the games most languishing on my backlog for the longest time. I feel guilty I haven't, but I'm excited to hear about it.
Same. I have never played it, but I feel like I heard about it either from this podcast or from you directly at some point, Josh. So,
yeah. So this is a nice little narrative-based game, which we all love those over here. This studio, Night School Studio, I feel like their thing is playing with dialogue trees and dialogue boxes. I feel like they love their branching paths. So the premise of the game in Oxenfree is you go to an island called Edwards Island, and you find out... So it's basically like a teen romp story. Think Stranger Things vibes a little bit, Bunch of teens on an island doing things they probably shouldn't be doing, smoking weed, drinking alcohol in front of a campfire on this like a deserted island, any setup for any type of horror movie, right? Mm-hmm. And the gameplay is kind of zoomed out, like point and click style. Everything is kind of hand painted looking. It's a gorgeous art style. It's just beautiful to look at constantly, and also very eerie too, which this is a horror game. It's more sci-fi horror than I would say like, gory or gross type of horror or just like a slasher. This is more like eerie and creepy and haunting vibes we're getting from this game here. And the basic gameplay is you're going to move your little dude around, and there's 3 little text boxes that'll pop up. So somebody will say something, and then you have to quickly think of the next thing to say. And it's like, okay, it's like, how are you doing today? And then you have like 3 boxes. Like one's like, oh, I'm doing good, I'm doing great, or I'm just thinking about things, ... And then you got to like pick one super quickly as fast as you can, because there's kind of like a little timer there to pick the boxes. Because if you don't say something, you just won't say anything at all. So it's like either you do the 3 boxes or you won't say nothing at all. So that's where the branching paths and the narratives start happening in the game. So you're on this island. There are very light puzzles to solve. There's like a house with things you kind of have to like hunt and find, like kind of like what's the name of those games where you're trying to find like specific things in like a busy environment. They have a couple like hidden object type puzzles in this game and things like that. They're not very frustrating. The puzzles are pretty simple and easy. The main concept of the game is just kind of like going from one area to the next, kind of experiencing story, experiencing the music. I guess I can get into that now because this game is like just like so cool. Like I love the atmosphere, and like the music really is underlying tones through like the entire game. It has kind of, like I said, Stranger Things is easiest like cultural touchstone to go off of, but it has like that synthwave feel with like really eerie ambient, like creepy, like chiptune-y almost music. And it's just like you go into an area and then like this game plays with radio frequencies and like how mysterious radios are and stuff. So you have a button, you can pull up the radio, right? And you can like tune to a radio station to solve puzzles. Sometimes when the music kicks in, you get that right radio station and the music gets like really like like that, you know, like that synth piano like thing going on, and you're like, oh, what's gonna happen? And something crazy happens, and it's like so creepy and just eerie. And you're kind of playing with the relationships of this group of teens, and you're learning about, you know, oh, is he gonna get with her, this and that thing. And then some of your decisions later on will lead to life or death situations. Like, do I need to go help this person, or do I need to jump from here or go do that? And what ends up happening is there are like over 20 different paths that this game has by the end of it. So it's like very, very replayable too.
Interesting. So if there's that many paths, I mean, is this the type of game that you're going to end up wanting to, like, do they expect you to play it multiple times, or is there like a true ending or anything that you unlock by playing it multiple times, or what?
As far as I know, I don't know what the true ending is going to be, because they're going to have to pick one, right? Because they're making a sequel. The sequel comes out next year. Yeah. So it's like they're going to either have to be like, did you play the first game? Or maybe they'll take your save from the first game. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but like it's kind of like either that or it's like a whole new group of kids, you know, in the same island or something like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, like I played it twice now, and I just recently did a playthrough, and it's like completely different ending than I had before by my decisions I chose. So, and the game's not super long. You can probably, the first playthrough, takes you about 4 or 5 hours. If you kind of know what you're going to do, you know where to go. It takes about 2 to 3 hours. I do have a minor complaint about the game itself, is I feel like the walking speed is a little slow in this game. So it's like, you know what you need to do, and you like to have this giant screen you have to get from the top to the bottom, and you're just kind of just walking for like 2 to 3 minutes sometimes, and you're like, all right, I know I need to get to the bottom of the map here, but I'm just waiting to walk down to the bottom. You know, I wish the walking speed was just a little faster. I feel like that's such a small minor complaint, but if you do that 10 times in a game that's 30 minutes, that you're just sitting there like, God, come on, let's go, you know. So besides that, that's like a very minor complaint. I think that really the gameplay itself and this, like the story, the way it's told, I feel like it feels very natural how they speak to each other. They speak like people do. It doesn't feel like a script, you know. It actually feels like a bunch of teens having a conversation, which I feel like is hard to nail, and I feel like more games have nailed that in the recent past. But like, yeah, I think that you kind of get attached to these characters. So when there is a life or death situation and one of them dies, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe such and such dies, and I should have done this instead of this. Maybe next time I should try that. And it's very much so that I do feel like you don't need to replay the game. Like, it's a really nice and creepy sci-fi horror story, but like I said, with beautiful music and art, and yeah, it's really cool.
The art style, I'm looking at some of the images right now because I've never actually looked at it, I guess, like up close, but it just reminds me of like flipping through like a classic children's picture book, right? Like that's what it looks like to me. Like, it's like everything, it almost like feels like the way they painted it or whatever, it just looks like it's straight out of a storybook, and it's like everything's made out of paper, and there are very sharp angles where they want them, but then certain rounded places. It looks awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it's very hand drawn looking, and so like it's all set at night, so like you'll like go to like a moment in the game, it's just like, oh, this is like the most beautiful thing I've seen in a long time in a game. Like this is like art style that will like never age, you know. You could probably play this in 10-15 years and still be like, wow, it's gorgeous. And then when you get to the creepy moments, like there's like a moment in a cave. I won't spoil any part of the story, but let's just say there's like an opening to the sky in the cave, and like this like creepy black like opening void thing comes out, and then you hear like booming voices and stuff. And like this game is so unsettling, like it is very affecting. This is very spooky time October game almost. I would say like I would play this like during Halloween times if you want to get those like, ooh, I got the shivers, you know, type of thing. So yeah, this game definitely has that in a lot of aspects, and a really great story too.
I think it definitely says something about the creators, that they were able to make this game make you feel that way, like have it be that scary, and then the art style look like this. Like it's wild. I guess it's kind of in Stranger Things in that way, because you go into Stranger Things with all these little kids. It's like, how can this be scary or make me feel fear? And then it does, obviously, right? So very interesting.
Is it very jump scary ever, or is it mostly just kind of like a low, unsettling kind of horror?
It's not. I wouldn't say it's jump scary at all. There's a moment where I can think of that kind of made me go, ooh, whoa, what is that? But I didn't like jump, you know.
Uh-huh.
But it's more like a, oh, I'm walking into this area, it's beautiful, and then, oh, what is that creepy thing? Let me go interact with that creepy thing. Oh, it's getting creepier, and then you kind of get like that music kick in. Like I said, like during like the actual gameplay, the music's pretty just like chill, like just really in the background. But then whenever something horrible happens, they like really build it up with like climactic moments. That's why I feel like, yeah, like I said, just think of Stranger Things, like the do 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 do, that driving synth wave stuff. They have that throughout this whole thing, mixed with a little bit of video game feel, and like, man, it's just a very memorable game from the story aspect for me. I really think they just nail it, and they nail that atmosphere.
Thinking about Stranger Things has me being like, man, I wish I could have 20 different endings to what I've seen of Stranger Things so far. That would be awesome. So that makes me want to check this out. Like, be able to actually impact the story in something like that.
I don't know if it's 20 exactly. I think that it was one of those things where I was reading a dev interview, and it's like about 20. So I think that there are probably multiple, like 4 to 5, like, here's the ending, but there's some variations to it, because it kind of does the Fallout thing. That's my closest thing I could think of. Like Fallout 3 was like, then you did this, and then this happened, and then this, like depending on what faction you have. It kind of does that with like a little cutscene, and then, you know, it has like a after the fact little scene, and the cutscenes are just dialogue boxes as well. They're just talking to each other. But yeah, it's it does play with life or death situations. It's very Until Dawn or any of those type of horror games where your decisions and your dialogue choices can affect people's lives. So I always think that's a really fun gameplay mechanic.
A stressful one, but yeah, fun.
Yeah. I think that this game was one of those, like, I was thinking about, is it a main quest or a side quest? Because like, I almost put it on a side quest, just to be honest. It is a main quest game for me, but I almost put it on a side quest because I remember the great atmosphere, the great art, the dialogue boxes, everything like that. But then I remember that 30 minutes or 45 minutes of me like, all right, I'm still walking. You know, this a little annoying part of it. You ever have a game where it has like, it's like a fantastic package, but there's just that one thing that bothers you about it. Like, that's pretty much for me for this game. And I don't think that drags the entire experience down for me. I think that if you guys want like a really nice spooky sci-fi, like, oh, what's happening on this mysterious weird island type of vibes, this game nails it. And I love the dialogue tree options. Like I said, 3 balloons above your head. You got to pick something real quick. What are you going to say? And I love that you think, sometimes you'll say, okay, so like, oh, you know, how are you doing today? Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing great. I'm thinking ... whatever. So I put I'm thinking, and then He goes, I'm thinking about last week when I ate that turkey sandwich. You know, you never know what the actual dialogue's going to be. It's kind of more like a tone piece of what you're going to say.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, and then sometimes they actually say what you click on too. So it's like, it's a little bit of a crapshoot there. You're like, oh, I didn't really mean to say that maybe, but let's just see where this goes. So it's kind of really fun to go with the flow of that too. And yeah, this is a main quest. And I think that anybody who is just looking for that unsettling game with great art and just a beautiful like soundtrack, art style, everything, great package. 3 to 4 hours, you can beat it in an afternoon if you like, and yeah, good times.
Yeah, good pick. You know, I feel like in the mid-ish 2010s, 15, 16, 17, 18, there was kind of this like third wave of indie hype where I feel like a lot of the well-loved, well-respected indies came out. Oxenfree, Night in the Woods, Firewatch, maybe even Celeste you could roll in there. And I feel like of those, this is the one that I knew the least about, and I feel like maybe it gets talked about the least. So it was a good pick. Good thing to bring to the show.
Cool. Check out Oxenfree. It's on all major platforms. It's a fairly recent game. You can probably find it on sale for $5 on Steam or Switch or whatever here and there. Great times, especially with October coming up pretty soon. I'm already in the spooky season. I'm already all ready to get into the October vibes right now. So if you guys are just feeling that horrorness, go grab that, and check it out.
Awesome.
Very cool. Very cool.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps up IndieQuest for
Now, I don't know how much of this has been on air, but especially off air. My boy Seth here has been really hyping up this pick. He's been excited to bring this game, so I'm ready for it. I am ready to hear it.
All right, so I'm just going to spoil you two and everyone who is listening right now straight off the bat. This is going to be a main quest pick. I don't normally do that, but you'll be able to tell with how enthusiastic I am.
It's like a 10 out of 10 with a bullet already.
I would actually maybe even go a step further. I have been kind of mulling it over, and I think that this game, and you guys get to hear it first, is my favorite game ever.
Ever. Last time I talked to him, it was in his top 5. It keeps climbing the ranks. Enter the Gungeon. Get back. Step aside, son.
Gungeon was always top 3, so I will just say my favorite game prior to playing this was always Link's Awakening, the original Link's Awakening, although I do love the remake on the Switch. But
Solid.
So much nostalgia with that game. Not really a game to bring to IndieQuest, but very good game, right? Brought Zelda to your hands, right? You could take it wherever you want. So love that game, still love that game. But I think this game, what it brings, it kind of encapsulates that on top of more of a modern edge. Without further ado, I will go ahead and say what this game's title is, so you guys can get off the edge of your seat and relax a little bit. I am bringing Death's Door to IndieQuest.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I've heard good things about this. Like, this one feels like it's either you like it and you appreciate it, or you're just like head over heels in love with it. I feel like for this game.
Yeah,
so
I've got some friends that also speak very highly of this. Now, not to eat into any of your intro here, but same devs that did Titan Souls, which you previously brought, right?
Yeah. I'll skip ahead a little bit. I was going to talk about who brought it, but the very first bullet point of my overview was a jab at Steve. I said, it's like Titan Souls, but good.
Titan Souls is as good as your feeble brain can understand. Okay.
All right. So yes, it was developed by Acid Nerve and published by Devolver. And as you guys know, and anybody who has ever listened to me for very long, I love basically everything Devolver publishes. They just pick games that appeal to me. So everything that they've ever published, I love. Gungeon, obviously one of them. Titan Souls, one of them. Death's Door is another one. So released last year, July 20th, for Windows and the Xboxes. And then on November 23rd of last year, it came to Switch and the PlayStation. So basically, whatever you own, you can play it on at this point, which is awesome because everyone should play this game. I feel like if you have any inclination for any type of action-y game at all, like it's go ahead.
Not to cut you off, but it is on Game Pass currently, and it has been since launch, so that's good to know.
That would be a fantastic way to play it for free. Although I would pay a lot of money to play this game. And I will spoil it now. I was going to talk about it a little bit later, but I've already bought different collections that they've come out with. I've been looking at everything. I bought some artwork on this game. Like, I absolutely love this game. I'm going to make like a little bit of a display, I think, on the back of my desk dedicated to Death's Door.
Heck yeah.
Wow.
It's that good. So for anybody who hasn't seen this game, anybody who's listening to this probably has seen or heard of this game in some way because it was a popular indie game that came out last year. But it's kind of a top-down, three-quarter view, 32-bit. Like they kind of play on that 16-bit thing, but it's way too polished to look like that. Like I could see it being much grainier running on a PlayStation before I'd ever be able to see it running on a Super Nintendo, right? Okay. So, but it's kind of that view, action adventure. The way that I would describe it is think Link to the Past, or since I brought it up earlier, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, mixed with elements of Dark Souls, which is pretty much absolutely right in my wheelhouse. Like everything I like about video games. Those two series have done for me in the past. So gameplay wise, like it's a hack and slash, you're kind of moving around. You don't exactly move at a very brisk pace. So Titan Souls kind of reminds me a little bit of Titan Souls in some ways because you don't move very quickly in Titan Souls. I do think that you definitely move a lot faster in this, but there are times when you are walking down a longish hallway or walking around where there's no enemies and it's like, okay, get going here. There is a dodge roll, right? So anybody like me who has undiagnosed ADD, I just press that dodge roll button all the time. I know for a fact that it doesn't make me faster, but it makes me feel better. So I'm dodge rolling everywhere, right? I'm just rolling around all over the place. The thing that the last really thing that I have to talk about Titan Souls in comparison to this, because this is kind of like a spiritual successor to Titan Souls. Like there are so many callbacks in this game to Acid Nerve's original game. I think the first game they fully developed by their studio, which was Titan Souls. And the best thing they did in this game, in Titan Souls, when I talked about it on one of our last episodes when I brought Titan Souls, they made it so that when you went upstairs, every time you rolled, you smoked your head and fell back.
you clonked.
And it is so annoying. Like, it is funny the first couple times. It's like, I just hit my head. But then, like, when you're trying to go faster, you've died to the same boss 10 straight times, and you just want to get back to that boss or else you're about to break your controller. It really grates on you when you smoke your head against those stairs. I will say in Death's Door, they have removed that. Maybe they received criticism about it or just realized, like, yeah, that kind of slows down the speed of the game. And I'm sure a lot of people are rolling everywhere they go. So let's take that out. So I will say, as your little crow, I should have mentioned, you do play as a crow running around, right? You get to bypass that and you can roll upstairs. I get it. It doesn't make sense, but it makes more sense for the gameplay feel, right? Like it doesn't slow down the gameplay. So love that. So back into kind of how the game plays and what you look like. You are a crow. You're known as a reaper. So you're basically in charge of collecting souls and taking it back to this reaping agency for what this kind of like godlike character known as the Lord of Doors. So you go from this like central hub and you go through all these doors to get to the main world where you have to go and reap souls and take it back, and that's basically your job. Like you are undying. All the crows have been made undying so you can continue to reap forever for the Lord of Doors. You don't really know why that is, but that's kind of the task that you have been assigned. And you learn, I'm not going to spoil a lot of the story because honestly, I think the story is pretty interesting. although definitely not the focus of this game, but the story is definitely really good. You learn later why you never die and what's up with the Lord of Doors and why you see all these statues of door lords all over the place as you're adventuring through. Like, you kind of learn that as the game progresses, right? So you have 4 different abilities that you can unlock. One is, I'll spoil it because honestly it's not, you unlock them as you go, but you eventually get a bow and arrow, a hook shot, a bomb, and like a fire spell. So think Legend of Zelda, like specifically Link to the Past. I'm pretty sure you basically get every single one of those abilities at some point in Link to the Past. You use those to solve puzzles. In that way, it's very much a gated exploration game because there are only so many places you can go at the beginning. But then as you unlock those abilities as you're traveling through, you can unlock doors and can get across gaps that require the hook shot and things like that. As you travel through at the beginning, you can see like, oh, eventually I must be able to learn how to fly. I mean, I am a crow because I don't see any way for me to get across that pit right now, right? I don't know how I would get across that, but then later you learn you can actually use a hook shot to do that, right? So I do like that because it definitely invokes the imagination, right? It's like, oh, I wonder how I'm going to do that sometime, right? So eventually you learn how you can do that.
Nice.
Big thing for my pal Steve is there is so much to collect in this game. It's insane. Yeah. So much to collect to the point where I have beaten the game now, and you have to do a lot of the collectible stuff in order to get a true ending, which I feel like is kind of tropey at this point, right? A lot of games do that. You have to get basically everything done in order to get the true ending. And it is a little bit daunting because I have gotten, I'll just say it, there you find one like right out of the gate, but there's these seeds where if you find a seed, you can pick it up, obviously, and then you find these little like flower pot type things, and you plant that seed, and it makes a flower grow. Then you can actually use that flower to refill all your health. Pretty cool. So you don't have to actually go back to a door to restore your health, go back to the other world. You can just continue to play. You don't get to save it at those pots because you don't save unless you go through a door. But at least you can refill as you go through some of the temples and things like that. Utilize that stuff to actually refill all your health. Pretty cool. At the beginning, I felt I was big boy, good gamer guy. And I picked up seeds, of course, because they're laying on the ground somewhere. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to pick that up. But then I would see like a pot and I'd be like, I have full health. I don't need to do that. Come to find out, about halfway through the game, I was reading something and people were like, oh, yeah, you should definitely plant every seed you find because you actually have an achievement where you have to plant those seeds in those pots. So I went about half the game not planting anything unless I absolutely had to because of that hoardy nature that we get as gamers. Yep. And I just was like, oh no, I'm going to have to go back through the entire game and look for every single pot. And come to find out, there are 50 of them.
Of course.
I mean, this is, I've already said, basically my favorite game of all time, but that is a little frustrating because it doesn't come right out and tell you that you'd have to do that, right? So, little spoiler here, I have 48 so far, and I don't know where any of the other ones are, so that means I'm going to have to YouTube it and look for every single seed through all of them and just basically go back through the entire game and see, because I don't know exactly what seeds I got and which ones I didn't. There's 50 of them, so that's kind of frustrating, and that's something I would warn if anybody decides to go play this. Just start planning them right away, and if you care about getting 100% someday, then maybe kind of peruse a guide just for that stuff because it's not going to spoil anything else. It's just going to be the seeds. You can collect these things called shiny things, which I thought is fantastic because if anybody doesn't know, crows love little objects, right? Like the big thing about a crow is you can make crows are like one of the smartest birds that there are, right? So in real life, so you can leave like a button. If you notice a crow around, you can leave a button and that crow will take that button, take it back somewhere, and they'll bring you back a stone or something, right? That's what crows do. It's kind of like a give take thing. It's kind of how they were developed, like, so it's pretty cool. So your main character loves collecting shiny things, and they're just these like extra little pieces of lore. Some of them actually are utilized as like a key and things like that, but it's pretty cool. So that's something you have to collect for your 100% too. And those are much more difficult to find. I think there's only like 15 of them or something like that. So, but they're each individual things. So when you actually go back to try to find them, when you miss some, you know which ones you missed and which ones you have, right? So that's easier to find them if you're looking at a guide that way. Like I said, souls, you collect souls. You utilize those souls actually to upgrade your character so you can have stronger attacks. You can have higher move speed, which is awesome. Your magic, they call it magic, but the 4 things that I mentioned earlier, you can make them do more damage. So that's pretty awesome. And that you actually basically put those points into those things back at the main hub area from this big crow that sits at a counter. But yeah, I mean, there are so many things. I'm sure I'm forgetting so much about what you can collect, what you can do. There are many different kinds of weapons. Some are faster, some are slower. Some are literally, you can get an umbrella, which is the exact same as the starter sword, except for it does half the damage. So it's like a challenge mode to use the umbrella.
Nice.
And there's an achievement for beating the game using only the umbrella for the entire game. So I have to do that too. I'm pretty sure I'm going to 100% everything, which I don't normally do. Like this is not I don't normally 100% things. I'm not a masochist like Steve. I don't normally do that, so I will plan to for this one.
Right.
Mini bosses. Go ahead, Josh.
I was going to ask about the bosses. You're literally about to talk about them. I was like,
Yep.
Titan Soul, the whole focus on Titan Souls was the bosses, right? So this obviously is going to have really great bosses. How are they in the game?
They are fantastic, amazing. The dialogue that you get from the bosses. So I guess I said I wasn't going to bring up Titan Souls a whole lot more, but the main difference between Titan Souls and Death's Door is, of course, the story. There's a massive story that Titan Souls just doesn't really have. But also in Titan Souls, there's a one-hit death system where either you die in one hit or they die in one hit. That is not the case in Death's Door. You have a health bar like normal RPGs or action-adventure type games, right? And the bosses also take multiple hits to kill. So it's much more like Zelda in that way. They decided to kind of drop that mechanic, but they kept the awesome like boss style that they had in Titan Souls. Like it's just fantastic, and like there's just this build up to the bosses because you kind of travel through their temples and you'll see the boss come out and talk to you and say go back, and they like have funny dialogue that they say. I mean, they're just like so good. Like I can't even describe, like, of any game I've ever played, the bosses in this, and like the titles for the bosses, like sometimes there is a boss that is like a king type character, and he thinks very highly of himself. So his title, his actual full title before you fight him, is just this like paragraph, right? Like he has just word after word descriptors of how amazing he is, right? Before you actually fight him. So just awesome. Like I can't say enough. The boss fights are excellent. Some of them actually even kind of cross over into bullet heli at certain points where there's just a lot of stuff coming at you. But like I said before, Dark Souls, you do have the dodge roll. You do have the iframes to dodge roll through that stuff, which is awesome. But yeah, I mean, they're great. I really can't describe it any more than that. Like it's just so good. That kind of gets us into the presentation. Like it's just this gorgeous pseudo 3D world. Honestly, I talked about it earlier, but the graphical style almost reminds me of the Link's Awakening remake, that toy-ish, plasticky, shiny thing. That
like a very
has.
clean look.
Yeah. That's how it reminds me, or that's what it reminds me of. So, kind of talked about the dialogue already. All the NPCs that you meet and help, like they all have excellent dialogue and have just these interesting backstories, to the point where you can actually go revisit them in a certain town you unlock later, and they will build upon their dialogue depending on what you've done in the game. And it's just awesome because every one of them you get invested in and just love. Like you just want to go talk to them some more because they just have such good characterization. They did a great job with that kind of stuff when it comes to presentation and making you want to learn more about the people in the game. So
Now, is this a soundtrack that you're listening to on the regular? Because Titan Souls, I mean, for all of your mixed bag of opinions on Titan Souls, you had the right opinion on the music. So I'm curious how this stacks.
So the music from Death's Door is also composed by David Fenn, who did Titan Souls. And yes, Titan Souls music was amazing. This soundtrack, I think, and this is kind of what pushes it over that edge, but this might be my favorite soundtrack of any video game ever.
Wow.
Like, yes.
Damn.
I go to his
This man has played a
Bandcamp.
lot of Hades, okay?
I
know.
Yeah, and Hades is amazing. Like, this is so good. It's so re-listenable. And he has his the whole soundtrack on his Bandcamp. So I listen to that while I'm working. Like, I just put it on in the background and listen. I've listened to it like all the way through several times. And I actually went and tried to buy the vinyl that they made for it. And it was sold out in January of this year. So I'm super bummed about that. I don't think they've actually released it yet because I don't see it on eBay. I don't like paying scalper prices because I'm sure they're going to rack it up because it was originally $50, so it's probably going to be $100 from most people. But honestly, I'll peruse. I'm definitely going to get it at some point.
Yeah.
Like I want it, like just for the collectible nature of it.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, it's very think Titan Souls. Like he doesn't really step outside of what he did in Titan Souls, except for a lot of it's like more bombastic. He uses the main melody from the main theme and kind of intertwines it into a lot of the songs and a lot of the areas, or he'll play it with different instruments. Yeah, usually it's like more of a woodwind version, but then he plays it with piano, and then sometimes he plays it with strings, guitar, violin. Like it's so good, and the main theme is amazing. Like everyone listening, prepare for some Death's Door on IQ OSTs in the future because it's coming.
Nice.
I think that pretty much brings me to the end. Any other questions that you guys had about Death's Door? I mean, obviously we already know it's a main quest. So,
How long is it, and how much time have you put into it?
so I beat it in about 11 hours. I have played it for about 13 and a half, 14. Okay. So yeah, it's not very long, and I would say if you kind of know where you're going, you should be able to beat the game in 8, probably. So if you do a replay, which I'm going to have to do a replay because I did not use the umbrella for the entire game, so I'm gonna have to go back, get the umbrella. You get it right out of the gate right away. You have to use the umbrella to beat the entire game, so I have to do that. But now that I know where I'm going. Like there are certain things, like there's these big platform deals that you kind of walk over and you don't really know what they are, but then you can see another platform in the distance, and it's like, I'm guessing these two things like jive together. Like I have to like teleport from this one to that one. Well, it turns out, and anybody listening to this is about to play, you should know this because I didn't know for a long time until I looked it up. But you can actually jump off of a ledge and like do your attack, like ground slam, and flip it over, and then you get to go through this little tunnel and then come up the other side. And I didn't know that because, so I just missed so many things as I was playing because it's never explained. And that's, I guess, if I was going to say that there are a couple cons, like this isn't a perfect game. The walk speed still isn't great. It doesn't explain certain things to you as well as it maybe could, but at the same time, I've heard you both talk about Tunic, and I've heard this compared to Tunic some, and I've never played Tunic yet. I'm excited to play it at some point. But in that game, they don't come right out and tell you things, right? And that's what makes it more charming, and I think that's what the Death's Door does as well. So,
oh yeah,
nice.
That was going to be the next thing I asked is like, any interest in playing Tunic soon? Because a lot of what you're describing is similar to Tunic, and anecdotally, some of the same people that have previously talked very highly to me about Death's Door also really like Tunic, so I think it'd be a good fit for you.
Yeah, I've seen screenshots and people play Tunic, and I'm like, gosh, this looks so much like Death's Door. Like even the art style is it's a little bit brighter, but it's so similar. I'm assuming they were both being developed at the same time, so it's not like I'm going to say, oh, Tunic, you took all of Death's Door's ideas. Like, no, I'm sure they didn't, right? But just two games that really look awesome. But in terms of Death's Door, I mean, it came out a year ahead, and it's just fantastic. Anybody that missed it last year should definitely go back and play it. If you have any resonation with the Zelda series or even Dark Souls or anything like that, like it is so good.
You get me amped up to go play it, man. I'm feeling like I need to go pick up a copy. This did have a Fizz-a-dish, so I'm like,
it did.
Right,
Yep.
Maybe got to track that one down.
Absolutely. Everybody should. It's so good. Love it.
Heck yeah. I love the enthusiasm, man. That's good to see. Gets me jazzed for the game.
Yeah.
Same here. Yeah, that's why we're here. I love talking about a game, especially when you're probably just popping around random games that look kind of cool, and then you find one that just like grabs you. Oh, it's the best. So I love hearing people's passions. And then I'm going to be looking for your passions on Tunic in 3 episodes when you're like, oh, I have a brand new favorite game of all time. It's called Tunic.
I honestly thought this is a little background, I suppose, but I know both of you have enjoyed Tunic, so I figured at some point we probably should all talk about Tunic together because I have a feeling that would be a good conversation. So
yeah, I don't want to bring it until you've played it.
Yeah,
so it's definitely a hard to talk about without having played a type of game. But we're not talking about Tunic. We're talking about Death's Door and good Death's Door sound like easy side quest. Like we're talking that right on the side quest.
It's borderline for sure, but yeah.
It's like I don't even know if I was going to bring it, but no.
Yeah, exactly.
to quote my boy Frantic, it's main quest with a bullet.
Yep.
Yeah,
for sure.
Awesome. So we had 3 fantastic games. We had Fae, which was a side quest, or Fae. And then we had Oxenfree, which was a main quest, and then Death's Door with a bullet, a main quest.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Solid little lineup there. Yeah.
I respect it.
So, I think we're wrapping up the show, huh? It sounds like it. Feels like it.
I don't want to see you guys go, but yeah, I suppose we probably have to wind it off at some point, right? Is that fair?
Do we want to announce a future episode we did talk about in the chat? That September 13th, 14th episode? The review we're doing? We're doing a review coming up. Do you want to announce it?
We'll say this. We'll not reveal it yet because we still have to play it. But
right.
You should be getting a follow-up episode to a game that we previously just did a review discussion on, a sequel to something that we've discussed, and we have 1 episode between now and then, right? So we can give the full reveal then.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's a little teaser. I was just curious because we did talk about it a little bit, and I'm looking forward to that. So awesome. Well, let's plug ourselves because plug-in feels so good, like Travis would say. Steve, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch as Blinkoom. OOM, like out of mana.
Seth, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at Captain Drachma on Twitter and in the Polymedia Discord, best place on the internet. And also a little plug here for a game called Hades, which I think Josh brought in the past. And put that was a main quest with a bullet, I believe, too, if I remember correctly.
It was a game of the year for that year, so we had a big discussion on it that year.
Yes, so great game, 2020. Cartridge Club, kind of not one of the Polymedia podcasts, but definitely affiliated with the Polymedia stuff. Some people over there that kind of intermingle in both groups. Myself, our buddy Ross, and our buddy JJS Boyce will actually be guest hosts on the Cartridge Club talking about Hades for the month of August. So we'll actually that'll come out at the beginning of September. So it'll be pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
It was like these 3 people talking about that fantastic game. Yeah, that's just gold right there. So I'm pretty excited for that. Well, you can find me on Twitter at Frantic Society. And we can chat over there. And I'm also on the Discord. And yeah, it's fun times. Well, how about we plug a couple of Polymedia podcasts? Steve, what's a Polymedia podcast people should know about?
Polykill. Polykill is the one to listen to, right? It's a show all about beating video games with me and the aforementioned Trav. So we make it fun. It's a good time. Come over and enjoy some video games.
Everyone should go check out Petey's Power Hour, because we won't be talking about it anymore. Sad face, tear face.
Mm-hmm.
Petey's Power Hour is actually officially concluded, but an episode did release recently that has, of course, Petey being the host, and Trav is back on again as a special guest host. Definitely, you guys, anybody who hasn't checked it out yet, go back out there, check that podcast out. It's excellent. Get to learn all about alcoholic beverages and some non-alcoholic beverages and just kind of what goes into them and some cool trivia. I believe, I don't know if I should, but she'll be fine with it. I believe Petey has another idea for a podcast coming in the future that she'll be on, so I don't think we'll be losing Petey overall, just that specific podcast, but it's still very worth listening to, so check it out.
For sure.
It's I feel like that show is very bingeable because the episodes aren't super long.
Yeah,
and you get a good smile and good laugh, learn a little knowledge, and there's some real Mariachi Entertainment System episode. I just remember that one specifically, just giving me a good guffaw.
Yep.
So it's a really great podcast. So I'm gonna miss it, but I'm glad that Petey's sticking around. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Why don't you pull one, Josh?
Yeah, Uncle Doug's DVD bin. Been kind of watching the movies along and listening, and it's a very fun and interesting show. It's a movie show with a twist, I would say. It's funny. It's very entertaining. I think you guys will dig it.
Yeah. Good stuff. And the newest episode, or the newest podcast on the network. So go check it out. Mm-hmm. And that's not all the shows. We have a ton of other shows you can go check out. polymedianetwork.com. Find a podcast for you. There are many of them there.
Yep, and then if you want to contact this show directly, we're on Twitter at IndieQuestPod. You can send us DMs over there. I will happily take them. We do have an email also, which we're going to save for the next episode. We'll chat about that next time. But if you want to send us an email, it's IndieQuestPod@gmail.com, and we'll read them on the show, have a little discussion. I love hearing, feedback from the audience, so all of that would be appreciated.
For sure.
Yeah. Always good to hear from you. And always good to chat with y'all about some indie video games. I appreciate it, buds.
Thank you guys for listening to another splendiferous episode of IndieQuest. I'm just stepping up my adjective game here today. And you guys have a wonderful, fantastic, beautiful, heroic week. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.